watching Canadian Muslim news on Muslim Network TV from Toronto, Ontario. I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. There has been little action on calls for anti-racism policies in Newfoundland and Labrador. After the news, we will talk to Dr. SOBIA SHAIKH, who is chair of the Anti-Racism Coalition Newfoundland and Labrador. But first, some news headlines. Canada's inflation rate starts to decline. Windsor constables allegedly donate to Freedom Convoy. Top Arts Academy apologises to Native American activist. Adnan Syed freed after 2 decades in prison. Now the details. Statistics Canada reports that the inflation rate in August dropped to 7% after witnessing the highest inflation rate in 4 decades at 8.1% in summer, reports a media source. Economists attribute this fall to decreasing gasoline prices. In August, the gasoline prices went down by 9.6%. Despite the gasoline price going down, food prices continue to increase. Groceries are now 10.8% more expensive than the previous year. The overall inflation rate has started to ease, reports the data agency, bringing relief to the Bank of Canada, which has increased its interest rate to around 3%. 2 Windsor police constables, Jason Michael Briscoe and Book Fazekas, are facing misconduct charges for allegedly donating money to the Freedom Convoy that blocked downtown Ottawa and Windsor's US border crossing in January this year. Media report that the Windsor police have also suspended a civilian employee without pay for 1 day. A leaked list of donors shows Briscoe allegedly donated $50 to the Freedom Convoy. Briscoe commented, "Officers for Freedom," while donating. Briscoe did not appear at a Zoom hearing this Monday. The hearing has been adjourned till October. The hearing for Vazikas has not started yet. Sasheen Littlefeather, a Native American activist, has received a formal apology on Saturday from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, or AMPAS, reports a media source. This comes after she faced decades of harassment for declining an Oscar award in 1973 on behalf of her actor friend Marlon Brando. Brando had requested Littlefeather to decline the award for negative representations of Native Americans in the media. Littlefeather says she was harassed backstage, blacklisted by Hollywood, and threatened by the producer of that year's awards show to be thrown in jail. Former AMPAS President David Rubin apologized to Littlefeather, saying the abuse she endured was unjustified. A Baltimore court judge on Monday threw out the conviction of Adnan Syed, who has served over 20 years in prison for his ex-girlfriend's Hae Min Lee's alleged murder. The judge ordered Syed to be immediately released. Prosecutors now have 30 days to either bring new charges or dismiss the case. Lee's strangled body was found buried in February 1999 in a shallow grave in the woods of Baltimore, Maryland. Syed, a child of a Pakistani immigrant family, has steadfastly maintained his innocence. However, his multiple appeals have been denied, including by the US Supreme Court, which declined in 2019 to hear his case. And that's it for the news. In June, we spoke to Dr. SOBIA SHAIKH, who is co-chair of the Anti-Racism Coalition Newfoundland and Labrador, about racist incidents that had been happening around that time. Unfortunately, there have been continued racist incidents, and so we are checking in again to see how the Anti-Racism Coalition is trying to address this. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. SOBIA, and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam, and thank you.
In August, there was a TikTok video of a man that went viral. Apparently, he was yelling racist slurs and the phrase white power. You did an interview with the CBC, and you said these incidents are happening over and over again. Do you want to tell us, about that?
I mean, I think we all know, many of us who are in this work, that many incidents don't get media coverage or ever come to, the authorities or to groups like ours. But we are hearing about a lot of individual moments of, racial assaults, verbal kinds of things like white power being shouted at, particularly racialized folks, and also including folks that are Muslim, or particularly women who are wearing hijabs. We were hearing a few of those incidents. And so we've been concerned. We're hearing about it informally, but also through, as you mentioned, in the media.
You mentioned, so there are two things I hope to pick up on. The first one, you said you're hearing about physical assaults. Are they not being reported to the police?
Not always. Very recently, there was a woman within the coalition who was spat at Tim Hortons in St. John's, and there was no reporting of that. That was the summer. It was not reported at all. So I think people are reluctant to discuss it. Even those of us who are in the front of this work, and again, it is an active anti-racist coalition member, but it does. There has been reluctance to report.
So if someone who's even been, let's say, made aware, hyper aware because of her, I'm assuming it was a woman, her advocacy work, is not reporting it to the police, she thinks nothing will happen?
I think in this case, it was, this person was spat at, and then there was a drive away, so that by the time she actually, had the wherewithal, they had left, the person had left, the young man had left. I think that was the issue. And I think also because we are hearing, it's so difficult to prove racism and racist assaults on people that the police has been, pretty reluctant to sometimes investigate adequately. And so we're hearing that, anecdotally and over again, and people aren't willing to come forward because it feels like that they could be targeted themselves. But mostly it's the lack of reporting has to do with fear of nothing happening, nothing actually happening with that complaint.
Yeah, it just becomes a statistic. We had this number of, spitting or whatever incidents, rather than something where people are made accountable. How does somebody cope with that? I have friends who've been spat on in public as well. Seems to be quite a traumatic experience.
I think the first thing that people, the woman in question here, she was in shock for about a month. She didn't speak about it at all. And it wasn't until there was a moment where it just, there was a conversation at the Arcanel, and she said, this is what happened to me. And I think she was shocked. And again, she's very aware of what to do. So we are, we did discuss the possibility of reporting. We are asking people in St. John's, in Newfoundland, across the province to report these incidents. But there is hesitation. And again,
to take a whole month to be able to even say those words out loud. I think that's really telling. That really shows how hard it is to verbalize that you've been through such an experience. Is there a sense of shame involved?
I don't know. In this case, I don't think so. I think it was shock. I think it was. I think also it's the fact that because perhaps we're working within anti-racist movements, we kind of expect it, but then there isn't that follow through. And I think that this idea of reporting is futile in some ways, but I think Arcanel is starting to, the Anti-Racism Coalition of Arcanel is starting to really ask that people do report it. And we're asking that people report it to Arcanel specifically, so that we have some sort of database, some sort of anecdotal information about it. Because if you're not going to report it,
Do you think that, I mean, I know these things don't qualify as hate crimes, which is why the police can't really follow up and people maybe don't want to report it. Does there need to be a new bylaw on some kind of a street level harassment bylaw in different cities? Is that one remedy that you think would be useful?
Absolutely. One of the things that we've also sent another subsequent letter to the Minister of Justice here, John Hogan, in the province, and we are asking for some changes and amendments to the human rights code itself. Perhaps that's one way. We're asking for protocols to be developed in municipalities, in provinces. We're asking for people to report it to the police if they're not the police, like, to report it. We're asking municipalities and the province to look at sort of some of the other legislation that is about being exposed to human rights just being exposed to hate-related or racially motivated discrimination. I think that there are some legal solutions, and I think more importantly, and this is something that we've been stressing, is the legal solutions are only one part of the picture here. I think what we're calling on municipal and provincial leaders to do is to call it out in the public realm. And every time something happens and comes to light, especially if it's in the media or through other channels, I think that having political leaders speak out and say, hey, this is not okay, creates a cultural change. And I think this last part.
Right. So you've been sending letters to the politicians and the mayors and asking them, all of those things that you just mentioned, but including something as simple as this is wrong. What kind of response are you getting?
So far, we've had an acknowledgement of our letters in St. John's and in Conception Bay South, which is very close to St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. We haven't heard from the Corner Brook mayor yet. We've asked for meetings. We haven't had the opportunity to meet. There hasn't been any movement to meet yet. I guess it's caught up in bureaucracy right now. So,
and if you're sending letters and you're getting an acknowledgement, we have received your letter, that feels like foot dragging. No matter what's going on in the internal, bureaucracy of those city halls. How do you experience not having heard back?
It's a little bit frustrating because we want this to be focused on people who are experiencing that and their well-being. Legal solutions, policy solutions do take time, but at least a meeting with politicians about this specific issue is really, I think, important. And I think it shows the Anti-Racism Coalition and all of our members and also public, that this is a serious issue. When we don't get meetings, or when we get an acknowledgement, which is welcome, which is welcome in the first place. But in the second place, if we're not getting an opportunity to really talk about this, we're not sure where it's going to go. Because we know, I'm a policy analyst, I know that it takes years to put into process policy, and then to put into practice is even longer. But people are being harmed right now, and especially harmed vicariously, because when you hear about these things and you hear that nothing has been done, there's been no statements by the politicians or by other officials, then we know that these things are not top of mind.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. We have to leave it there. But thanks very much for the work you do and coming on the show to tell us about it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe, and God bless.